These days, the word narcissist is everywhere. An ex-husband or wife who ghosted you, a boss who took all the credit, friend who never seemed to care unless it benefited them. But here's what most people get wrong. Just because someone is self-centered, emotionally distant, or craves admiration doesn't mean they have narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. Because, well, yes, narcissistic traits are real, but a full blown NPD diagnosis is something much deeper, more complex, and far more destructive. I'm Dr. Alena Prihitka. I'm a therapist and a researcher specializing in people with borderline and narcissistic traits. And in this video, I'll walk you through what we call NPD and how we diagnose it based on the DSM-5. I'll show you how it looks in real life through some famous movie characters. So we'll go deep into how these characters think, what they feel, and how their behavior affects their lives and relationships. So let's begin. What is narcissistic personality disorder? So narcissistic personality disorder is defined by a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. So it's more than just being confident or even arrogant. It's a personality structure which is built to avoid shame and protect fragile sense of self. So these patterns usually start in adolescence or early adulthood, and they cause real ongoing problems in person's emotional and relational life. So at the core of NPD is the idealization devaluation defense mechanism. People with this defense swing between extremes. So they idolize someone, put them on pedestal, or then they devalue them completely, hit off the pedestal. So black and white thinking protects them from shame because they can't tolerate in between. And at the same time, they often experience the split between their real self and ideal self. So real self feels flawed, never enough, an ideal self is powerful, admired, and emotionally untouchable. So most of their energy goes towards protecting that fantasy self. Let's look at each of the 9 criteria through the lens of film characters. I'll explain how these traits show up in thinking, emotions, and behavior. So, number 1 criteria, grandiose sense of self importance. Remember Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street. So, Jordan doesn't just think he's talented, he thinks he's untouchable. He talks like a god of finance, acts like laws don't apply to him, and surrounds himself with followers who feed his ego. In his mind, he believes he's a genius who deserves everything. Emotionally, he gets high on admiration and reacts with rage when his power is threatened. Behaviorally, he manipulates, defrauds, consumes without limits. So, how it impacts his life? His sense of superiority brings temporary fame and wealth, but also ruins his marriage, his company, and ultimately his freedom. His empire collapses under the weight of this grandiosity. Criteria 2 preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, Great Gatsby. Gatsby is obsessed with the idea of being rich, admired, and loved by Daisy. But what he really longs for is not the woman herself, but the fantasy she represents. In his thinking, he believes that if he can create the perfect life, he can recreate the past. Emotionally, he's stuck in longing and illusion. Behaviorally, he throws parties, builds mansions, and lives entirely for an image. So, how it impacts his life? Well, Gatsby can't connect with real life or real love. His emotional world is a fantasy, and when reality doesn't conform to it, everything falls apart. Number 3, believes that they're special or can only associate with high status people. Miranda Priestley, The Devil Wears Prada, right? Miranda doesn't waste time on ordinary people. She views herself as elite and expects others to conform to her unspoken rules of power and perfection. So her thoughts are centered around exclusivity. Only the best deserve her time. Emotionally, she is distant, cold, and difficult to read. Behaviorally, she discards people the moment they show vulnerability. How it impacts her life? Well, Miranda is respected, feared, and envied, but she's also profoundly alone. She can't form emotionally safe connections because she only values utility and image. Number 4, requires excessive admiration. Regina George from Mean Girls, right? So Regina lives for praise. Her power depends entirely on how much others admire and fear her. In her mind, being loved is not enough. She must be worshipped. Emotionally, she is fragile. If someone else gets attention, she feels threatened. Behaviorally, she gossips, strangulates, punishes anyone who threatens her status. So, how it impacts her life? Regina's self worth is built on other people's opinions. She has no stable inner sense of who she is. Criteria 5. So, sense of entitlement. Character, Frank from Catch Me If You Can. Frank doesn't feel the need to earn success. He believes he deserves it. He impersonates professionals and manipulates people with charm. His thinking is filled with justifications. Why shouldn't I have what others have? Emotionally, he feels entitled and clever, not guilty. Behaviorally, he lies, steals, and deceives with ease. So, how it impacts his life? Frank's entitlement makes it impossible for him to live authentically. His relationships are built on illusion. Eventually, he's caught and forced to face the lonely, scared boy beneath this grandiose persona. Number 6, interpersonal exploitation. Character Emmy from Gone Girl. She's brilliant, charming, and terrifying. She manipulates everyone around her with surgical precision to maintain control. In her mind, other people are tools to be used or obstacles to be removed. Emotionally, she feels justified in her revenge and disconnected from guilt. Behaviorally, she lies, stages her own disappearance, and frames her husband for murder. So, how it impacts her life? Amy's relationships are based on domination, not connection. She can never be vulnerable or truly loved because she doesn't allow anyone close enough to see the real her. Criteria 7, empathy, lack of empathy. Patrick from American Psycho. Patrick can act like he cares, but it's all a performance. He objectifies others, lacks remorse, and commits horrific acts without emotional response. His thoughts are flat and hollow. People are background noise. Emotionally, he is detached, numb, and increasingly dissociated. Behaviorally, he lies, murders, and continues his life as nothing happened. So, how it impacts his life? Patrick becomes more disconnected from reality and himself. He cannot love, cannot connect, and eventually questions if he even exists. 8. Envy. These people are often envious or believe that others are envious of them. Tom Ripley from The Talented Mr. Ripley. Tom is obsessed with what others have, especially Dickie, Greenleaf's lifestyle, freedom, and confidence. He doesn't just admire Dickie, he wants to be him. In his mind, Dickie has stolen the life he deserves. Emotionally, Tom feels invisible, inadequate, and desperate. Behaviorally, he imitates, deceives, and kills eventually to protect the illusion he created. So, how it impacts his life? Tom loses himself. His envy becomes a trap. He can't stop performing, lying, or running. He gains status but loses identity and lives in fear of being exposed. And number 9, arrogant behaviors or attitudes. Tony Stark from early films, Iron Man. So he's brilliant and he knows it. He dismisses others, mocks authority, and wears arrogance like armor. In his thinking, no one is his equal. Emotionally, he avoids vulnerability and hides insecurity behind sarcasm. Behaviorally, he isolates himself, overcompensates, and self-sabotages. So, how it impacts his life? Tanya is admired but not trusted. He is surrounded by people but emotionally alone. Only when he begins to face his fear of being not enough does his real transformation begin. So, what is it really NPD? A diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder is only made when at least 5 out of the 9 criteria are met, the traits are consistent and long-term, And these traits cause emotional suffering or damage to relationships. And also, they reflect deep defensive structure driven by shame, insecurity, and emotional fragmentation. Can NPD be treated? Well, yes, but it takes time and the right approach. So people with NPD only usually come to therapy after a loss of relationship, career. So for instance, through schemotherapy, psychodynamic therapy, transference focused therapy, mentalization based therapy, they can learn to build a stable sense of self, relate with empathy, and slowly integrate the split between who they are and who they are trying to be. I'm Dr. Alena Prikhitska, and if this video helped you to see narcissistic personality disorder with more depth and compassion, subscribe, stay connected, and let me know in the comments what topics you'd like me to explore next.